On the 21st of June 2018, Immigrant Camp USA is the title of our episode today from WBRNRadio and on the Boston Red Network. There's been much in the news about minor children being separated from their parents at the border of the U.S. in Texas and in other places and being taken to camps. That's all they can be described as. The camps look the same as across Europe, but they are not as appealing as one would say. Little children as young as 3 years old and perhaps younger being placed in cages that you would normally see in a kennel that you leave your animal for a holiday. Those are the kinds of conditions that are projected across the world from the USA. People see camps, and the immigrants are, parents that is, are separated and put into other holding patterns. They aren't called camps, but they are makeshift patterns. Some of them are privately owned type of operations. And what happened with this the last 2 weeks approximately was a background set for any person running against a member of the Republican Party in the 2018 election cycle this November. All one needed to do was get the CNN or whatever station footage or various independent footage, and you could frame your campaign commercial. Immigrant Camp USA. Not shouting USA, but it's shouting Immigrant Camp. And that can't be downplayed. The Trump administration tried literally 30 or 40 or 50 different spins to try to spin out of it, blaming other administrations, etc. But what the spin masters at Campaign Trump, we'll call it that because DJ Trump has already started his 2020 campaign. He was in the state of Minnesota, in the northern part, a city called The Loop, at a hockey arena. There were 9,000 or 10,000 raving Trump supporters there, reminiscent of a campaign stop, shouting, "Lock her up, build the wall," and the newest slogan is Space Force. Neglecting, to tell the people that there are treaties that outlaw the weaponization of space. But it did not keep them from calling a Space Force. You have the Air Force, Army, Navy, Marines. Now you'll have the Space Force. It appeals to some, and evidently that crowd was the sum. And at the same time blaming various other people for either not covering the administration properly. The problem that has happened in media in general, from the CNNs to the Washington Post to Fox, etc., the monopoly media actually overcovers DJ Trump. And that's a problem in any political campaign, in any series. You can get into overexposure. Even in internet radio, if you have multiple shows, you can get overexposed if you fragment your listenership too many times, providing the types of episodes you have. Now, obviously, if you have different episodes that involve different issues, that fragmentation is somewhat limited. That is why at WBRN we continuously change the episode, with the exception of a few. Friday Java and the week that was, and of course the Monday morning quarterback. They randomly change because on Monday morning, different teams, different talk shows, different events are being spotlighted. Of course, on the week that was, the events usually of that week. Now, this week we'll talk again about immigrant camps because it was in the news. And on Friday Java, which is our magazine program, we talk about various events. We usually visit the University of Virginia at Charlottesville and Remember Ever Higher. And again, that will pop up. The white supremacists have applied for a permit. I believe it's on August the 12th to appear in Washington, D.C. The Park Service is reviewing the permit. They applied also to the city of Charlottesville, and the new mayor there and the government in Charlottesville rejected the permit. They went to court. We have not heard anything of that event. But all these events are, as they say, continual. From the White House, we had the propagandist Miller, who is an alt-righter, a fascist, comment about the little children, minors, in the camps. It was so brutal and outrageous that the monopoly media did not print it. And Trump's running around talking about fake news. The problem here is with corporate media, things that should be printed many times are not printed. And things that are minor things are promoted, as Bill Clinton would say, to major things. Period, or major stories, because they will sell advertiser dollars. And that is one of the drawbacks. If you look at something, say, at Facebook, things that don't bleed or don't get the headlines there, and many other things in social media. But the times do go on. And one of the quote-unquote lessons that DJ Trump and company have learned from this, that when you have a story that is bad, and it plays for more than one day, you have problems. And if you get into a scenario like our foreign producer O.J. Leo used to say, O.T. Leo, the free strikes theory, and that's what happened to Trump after 3 days. It continued to be there, no matter how they sent Nielsen out there to spin it. It was like a spinning top that had literally fell off of its top, or off of the counter. And that's the reason Trump hollered uncle and reversed his stance, which he claimed he would not reverse. When you have a loss of that nature, a propaganda loss, it does not disappear from you, because your opposition understands that if the right issues come up and if it is promoted properly, they have an issue. That's one of the problems the Democrats have had in this cycle, is finding issues that the public is immediately attuned to. And with little children, it reminded older people of the tragic events in Birmingham, Alabama, under the police chief there, Bull Connor. Old Bull literally deployed water cannons, dogs, etc., on innocent young African-American children. And Dr. King, through his campaign, was able to turn a bull into a steer. And effectively, this is what happened here. The bad publicity from the immigrant camps turned a normal, boisterous DJ Trump from the bull running about the field to a steer setting in the corner. And this is one of the things that happens when the hand is constantly overplayed. Yes, one can go to a campaign rally type thing and find 10,000 people to cheer. But the cheering there, the Make America Great Again, the same hat that Dennis Rodman wore in Singapore, only has limited currency. Yes, the meeting in Singapore between Trump and Chairman Kim was a move in the right direction, no doubt about that. But at the same time, you have to have an overall program of improvement. You can't have one event that, as Lennon said, where you have 3 steps forward and 1 step forward and 3 steps backward. And that's basically what's happened here. DJ Trump announced his war on federal workers. evicting federal workers from office buildings that they now are in, and at the same time revising work rules, which in itself is very tenuous, at various agencies, including the Social Security Agency. And this continual war does not stop with benefits now and benefits, salaries, etc. It goes into pensions, that they will pay more for their pensions. Is not unusual. But what is does stick out here with these various federal unions, that they had managed to get in the same house with management. So in other words, treating themselves as a part, quote unquote, of the company. This no more. And we at this space have talked about side issues or dialectics in what Trump does. Now this puts the unions back to being unions and not part of a willy-nilly management agreement. They now must fight. And the head of the American Association of, I believe it is, ACME, and this actually was the head of the teachers union there, talked about the Democratic Party and how it was structured to prevent, quote-unquote, independents from running for president. They have to be Democrats, run as Democrats, etc. These are the types of company exclusionary policies that handicapped the 2016 election. As the record goes, voter suppression was number one. Forget about so-called Russian interference. That was a third matter, basically speaking. But you had voter suppression in Republican states that required, of all things, some of the states to bring a birth certificate, a passport. That was in Kansas. A judge struck that down to be able to vote. And in 2016 and in the 2000s, they can verify where a person resides. However, the person is given a provisional ballot until they can determine that later. And the number of people fraudulently voting is very, very low out of millions of voters. So thus said voter suppression. The second item was back to the primary fight between Bernie Sanders and Hillary the Monster Clinton, and the attempt of the Clinton campaign to work with the Democratic National Committee to shut Bernie out of as many primaries as possible. In other words, to rig the vote. Thus, bad feelings went with the election. So the monster was forced to run in a general election and asked for the support of people that were abused by her campaign. That never works out in a positive manner, and it did not this time around. Many Bernie supporters either voted for Jill Stein, as we did, or did not vote, or voted for someone else. That took the numbers down. And all the other shenanigans out there, the Facebook ad placement, etc., yes, that contributed to the melee. But the basic thing there, voter suppression and political malpractice by the Clinton campaign, lost the election. And our model, the Ouija board model, never had DJ Trump behind. There were some other models, polls, etc., that showed the monster head. Our second model, the slide rule model, showed the monster gaining. But the monster never gained enough to surpass those 80,000 votes that separate her in places like Michigan, Wisconsin. She almost lost Minnesota. And what we do know from anecdotal evidence, had Bernie Sanders been the candidate of the Democratic Party, he would have won the election. But that is the past. Now we move circular to 2018. and the opposition or the resistance that follows Dan Rather, that follows Professor Reich out of Berkeley, must get out the vote. That is paramount. And these candidates out here, we have to evaluate them one by one on a one-by-one basis, such as in Maryland. Our own Ben Jealous is running for governor. They have a token candidate running for governor there. So when that primary comes up, we have to come out in great numbers. And the winner there will have to have some accommodation, because Larry Hogan has pulled out every stop to bamboozle voters into re-electing him in Maryland, a Democratic state. In the Commonwealth, Charlie Baker is so far ahead, the Democratic Party has not even attempted to mount a credible campaign. That is unfortunate. The Democratic Party is not doing it. A third party should have in the Commonwealth. Those are some of the things one has to look at. In Texas, Beto O'Rourke is running behind, but is in need of funds. Funding must go, as Jesse would say, to Texas, so he can take on lying Ted Cruz on an even playing field. So those are some of the things out there that dog the party. The party cannot simply run a campaign, the Democratic Party that is, and the resistance based upon what happened to the monster in terms of the monster server, or what James Comey did, or what so-called Russian hackers did. And the big problem here is evidence. Whether you have state-sponsored hackers or you have hacker gangs or whatever, it is very, very difficult to pinpoint where these actors come from. Now, what we have is information from the FBI and CIA, but those institutions have already been tarnished. And the so-called blame game there is not, as they say, established. Now, we've heard testimony from various people on the interference and where it came from, but they have not put the evidence out. Now, WikiLeaks published a number of these items, and WikiLeaks said they did not get the items from where they claimed they came. And WikiLeaks has a pretty good system to gather information, and it is, we won't say it's foolproof, but it is almost foolproof. So this is the reason that Julian Assange is under the duress that he is under at the present time. And we have to sort of look at this. We have another story here, and this was a quote from DJ Trump. The U.S. will not be an immigrant camp. Well, it already is an immigrant camp, is the problem, period. The headline, of course, in Reuters is Trump backs down on separating immigrant children. Legal problems still remain. Well, the remainder is it's still very early, and we are awaiting further guidance on the matter. That's from Brian Marriott, a spokesman for the Health and Human Services Department Administration for Children and Families. Ramifications is always the ultimate goal of those entrusted with the care of unaccompanied children, and the administration working towards those. In other words, they don't have a plan as of yet. The order on usual reversal by him moves parents with children to the front of the line for immigration processing, but it does not end the 10-week-old zero-tolerance program that calls for prosecution of immigrants that cross the border illegally. It's about keeping families together while at the same time making sure that we have a powerful and very strong border, so said DJ Trump. But it doesn't solve the situation at all. And from those that view cable, yes, it was a very, very big problem. And according to counselor to Beauregard Sessions told reporters, the Justice Department seeks to change a 1997 settlement known as the Flores Agreement, which has set a nationwide policy for detention of minors in custody of immigration officials. Federal appeal courts had interpreted the Flores Agreement to allow immigration officials to detain families for only 20 days. Now, this is a difference. You'll see a picture here of these Immigrant Camps USA, all laid out like dominoes on a domino board. Period. Parents referred by the border agents for prosecution are held in federal jails while the children have been remanded in the U.S. Customs Border Patrol's custody or have been moved into facilities managed by the Office of Refugee Resettlement. That's the Department of Human Services. As of Tuesday, there were 2,342 children had been separated from their parents between May the 5th and June the 9th. So this is part of what faces the administration. And a note here from the entertainment industry, Fox riff widens as Modern Family. Co-creator Steve Levitan and others blast the coverage, news network's coverage of immigrants. The Murdoch family controls that media conglomerate that has long fried as a big tent that includes subversive entertainment shows as The Family Guy, conservative viewpoint commentators as Hannity. Modern Family, that's a co-creator there. Steve Vinian shocked the entertainment industry Tuesday with an announcement on Twitter that he would leave Fox TV studios, citing personal disgust with Fox News. As a result, he quickly revised the statement, saying that he would make his decision after 20th Fox completed the pending sales of its movie and studio assets to either the Disney company or Comcast. Leviton's decision to toss a social grenade at this longtime employer demonstrates how angry over the rightful rip of Fox News has been bubbling amongst liberals on the studio side. Fox News 23 hours a day support for the NRA conspiracy theories and Trump lies hard to swallow every day, he said. So all these people have disdain, including Seth MacFarlane there, and he's a Family Guy creator. Now these shows have brought money to Fox News. Jerry Seinfeld, Jeffrey Sonnenfeld, senior associate dean for the Yale School of Management, said creative types at Fox Studio probably are speaking out now because they see a sale coming. No doubt about that. They will not be with Fox. But Murdoch never had a passion for Hollywood. Longtime associates say preferring news and politics. He made the preference known when he agreed to sell the studio assets. Going forward, his company will be known as the new Fox, including the Fox News Channel, the Fox Business Channel, and some of their own stations. So he will be in the news and out of the studio business, which is good. My situation is I hope he'd get out of the baseball business. He backs up his response to Carlson with a $2 million donation to NPR and gave an additional $500,000 to LA member station KPCC. Now MacFarlane was disturbed in particular by Fox News host Tucker Carlson. Now this Tucker Carlson character was once on a public TV, if you can believe that, asserting that voters should ignore what they hear from other news sources. MacFarlane, whose program has earned hundreds of millions of dollars for 21st Century Fox, said he was embarrassed to work for the company, and I don't blame him. That is from the LATimes. We try to balance as much coverage as we can, and this is something from the LA area here. We didn't look at it. 100 children are separating their parents at the border are in Los Angeles. Most of them detained, and they show, and we'll show this picture here, 100 children separated from migrant parents at the border on the zero tolerance have reached the greater Los Angeles region. Most of the children are 9 or younger, are housed in detention shelters, are foster homes overseen by government contracted shelters, the organization said. Few have been reunited with family or friends. It's unclear what will happen. They had a 6-week-old Prestus. Immigration advocates, said the hardline policy, which separated 2,300 or more children, took a vast toll on the on Los Angeles, home to a Central American population. Jose Cabrera, a spokesman for the Coalition for Humanity, Immigration Rights of Los Angeles, we object to the president's zero tolerance of policy, not just because the right to do, but because we suffer in the flesh more than other urban centers in the U.S. Cabrera said legislators in other states support Trump's immigration bad policies, don't know firsthand how decisions trickle down into diverse centers like Los Angeles. In 2014, with thousands of children beginning crossing the border alone because of violence in home countries, Los Angeles County remained one of the top regions to receive unaccompanied children. In fiscal 2017, sponsors countywide received 3,000 children. That was in 2017. So that is a story there. The Civil Liberties Union filed a lawsuit on behalf of the organization's behalf last week, and I won't try to pronounce his name. It was denied access to Vacaville federal prison, where parents of some of the children in his group served may be housed. The directive seeks to help families together in detention. This is likely to open a new legal battle, however, over the landmark 21-year-old court settlement known as the Flores Agreement, on which the federal government agreed to hold immigrant minors no longer than 20 days. The order would be a temporary. Administration officials called the order a stopgap measure and refused to say what they would do with the migrant children in 3 weeks. Now, this is where we got a little more information on these schemes here. Now, this Lindsay Toksolinsky. Anyway, Toksolinsky is the executive director of the Immigrant Defenders Law Center, in Los Angeles. So this is one of the issues here that we have more and more of these children. This is actually a picture in McAllen, Texas, of the children. On these little pads, and with these foil-looking things covering them up. It looks like a concentration camp. Let's do the sports. And we'll go to FIPA first and the World...
Today's episode is sponsored by Pebbles.
I never liked their coverage here. But anyway, these are the daily schedules here. What we have for the 21st, Denmark and Australia, France and Peru, and Argentina and Croatia. Actually, that Denmark and Australia match is going on now. Let's go back to Wednesday, the 20th. Portugal 1-0 over Morocco, and Uruguay 1-0 over Saudi Arabia, and Iran and Spain 1-0 over Iran. So those were the scores there. And let's get college baseball here. On Saturday, North Carolina 8 and Oregon State 6, Mississippi State 1, and Washington nothing. I believe they were eliminated. On Sunday, Arkansas 11 and Texas 5, Texas Tech 6, and Florida 3. That was on Sunday the 17th. On Monday the 18th, Oregon State 14 and Washington 5. Washington is eliminated. The sixth game, North Carolina versus Mississippi State, was postponed. On Tuesday, June 19th, Mississippi State 12, North Carolina 2, Florida 6, and Texas 1. Texas eliminated from the College World Series. And on Wednesday, Arkansas 7 and Texas Tech 4, Oregon State 11 and North Carolina 6. North Carolina is eliminated from the College World Series. And that is up there. Incidentally, the College World Series held at the, Ameritrade Park in Omaha, Nebraska. The Kansas City Royals will play a game there in Omaha. A starting situation. There will also be a Major League Baseball game in London. Now, on to the scores. The Tigers were at the Reds. The Reds 5-1. Atlanta was in Toronto. Toronto 5-4. The Cardinals were in Philadelphia. Philly 4-1. The White Sox were in Cleveland and were shut out 12-0. The Dodgers were at the Cubs. Cubs finally win a game 4-0 in Wrigley Field. The Athletics, we missed it. The Athletics and Padres. Athletics 12-4 down in San Diego. The Marlins and Giants in San Francisco. Giants win 6-5. The Mariners and Yankees in in New York. Yankees 7-5. The Orioles and Nationals in D.C. Orioles pulled that one off 3-0, shut out the Nationals. The Red Sox in Minnesota. Twins 4-1. That's the second game that they won. Mr. Fernando Rodney, 42 or 3 years old, got the save. And nonetheless, the Rays and Astros in Houston. Astros 5-1. The Rangers and Royals in Kansas City. The Rangers win it 3-2. The Mets and Rockies out in the Mile High City. Rockies 10-8. And the Brewers and Pirates was postponed. I assume due to rain, but not sure. Anyway, nonetheless, that is the sport. And for the episode, Immigrant Camp USA on the 21st of June 2018 from WBRNRadio and on the Boston Red Network. We will return with Friday Jobber on a Friday morning.